Okay, we're going to do 1.3. We're going to start with number 11, and it says find the average rate of change, which basically means find the slope. And we're going to find the slope between the point where x is 1 and x is b. This happens to be a parabola, moved down 7 and vertically stretched. So if I have a parabola that's moved down 7 and vertically stretched, and I have it 1, it's probably going to be someplace like here. And if b is bigger, it would be over here someplace, and I'm going to find the slope of the secant line. So this point is 1, and 1 put into the equation, which would be 4 minus 7, which is negative 3. And this point would be b for the x-coordinate, and 4b squared minus 7 for the y value, putting b into this. So the slope between these two, the average rate of change of this function, is going to be y2 that's basically f with b put into the equation for x's, minus y1 that's how slope is figured out, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So y1 is minus 3, or you could also write 4 times 1 squared minus 7 in here, over x2 minus x1. So this becomes, let's see, 4b squared minus 7 plus 3 is minus 4. And if I factor the numerator, I get 4 times b squared minus 1. Factor out a 4. And if I factor that further, that's 4 times b plus 1 and b minus 1. Hopefully you remember your factoring. Oh, b minus 1 in the denominator. That factor cancels that one. And so we get b 4 times b plus 1. That's the answer to number 11. Now let's do 13. And this is a line. Goes through plus 4 with a slope of 3. And so if I want to find the slope between 2 and 2 plus h over a little bit more up here, well, the slope is going to be 3, because on a line it's always 3. But let's just pretend like we don't get that and just use the formula. See, to find y2, I would put 2 plus h in for the x. So I'd have 3 times 2 plus h plus 4. That's putting x2 into the function for x's and figuring out what that is. That gives me y2 minus y1 I would get by putting x1 in here. So I'd have 3 times 2 plus 4 over x2 minus x1. All right, so now let's simplify. So I have 6 plus 3h plus 4 minus 6 minus 4 over, see, the 2 and the minus 2 cancel. It's just h. Don't forget to distribute that minus and make that negative 4. So those 4's cancel. That minus 6 cancels the plus 6, and I get 3h over h. The h's would reduce to 1, and I get 3, which had to be the answer because this is a line with slope 3. So, and the slope between any two places on the line is going to be 3. Okay. Now, 15 is a little more complicated. The algebra gets a little messy. So we get to get y2, we put 9 plus h, excuse me, into the function. So we get 1 over 9 plus h in for the t plus 4 minus y1. So I put x1 in for the t, and I get 1 over 9 plus 4 over x2 minus x1. Simplifying a little bit here, we get 1 over h plus 13 minus 1 over 13 over the 9's cancel over h. Now, I have fractions. To add or subtract fractions, you need a common denominator. The only way to make these look the same, I can't go plus h, that's not a rule. You can only multiply by 1. So I have to multiply this one by 13 and 13, and this one by h plus 13 and h plus 13. This divided by that's 1, and I can multiply anything by 1 and it stays the same value. Now, what do we get from this? Well, I get 13 minus 1 times h is minus h, and minus 1 times 13 is minus 13 over the common denominator, which is 13 and h plus 13 multiplied, and all of that is over h, if you want, over 1. Now, simplifying, 13 minus 13, they would cancel, and I get minus h over 13 times h plus 13 over h over 1. And if I multiply by the reciprocal of the denominator, 1 over h and 1 over h, the h's cancel, and I get 1 down here, which doesn't change anything. And the h's cancel, and I get minus 1 over 13 and h plus 13. And that's how to do 11, 13, and 15.